Hello boys and girls, cats and kittens. Today I'm going to do, I just got back from dropping off my wife and daughter at a little gathering that they're having with a couple of friends, and there are three little girls and three young ladies there, and for whatever reason I always think health and different things, and I thought about a recent message we got from a family member overseas about some things we had worked on for ovarian cysts. And that reminded me, because that's quite a room full of ovaries there. So it's something that should be addressed to make a little bit of fun out of it. But that's one of the things that I've over the last 20 years, I've worked quite a bit with, and is people, especially women, with different reproductive health ideas. And one of the main things we've done, I've mentioned in our other packages, or I've mentioned about the packages that we send to the Philippines. One of the main things that we have sent over the years is probably about 100 bottles of Lugos iodine. And, excuse me one moment. Sorry about that. And I just ate one of my homemade raw milk shakes, so I'm a little full here, so excuse the heavy breathing. But anyway, that's a bottle of Lugos. This is J. Crow's. This is actually probably one of the ones I would trust above many. There's a lot of good sources out there, but that's one of my favorites. So when I refer to Lugos iodine, this is what I'll be using. You decide to use what you want. That's 2%. It comes in different dosages, 2, 5, 7, and 15% as well. Maybe even 12% if I remember right. But so what I'm going to just try to make this a quick video and try to address a little bit of some ideas that I've given to others. And again, it's all based on clinical evidence from some of the best. I consider Dr. David Brownstein, Dr. Jorge Fleccas, and the late Guy Abraham probably the leaders in the world when it comes to iodine. And they've worked with tens of thousands of patients and clients, and everything under the sun, from thyroid cancer to ovarian cysts again to yeast infection, you name it. And as you know, Lugos has been around for whatever it is, nearly 100 years, or 200 years, make that. It's very powerful, it's extremely safe, and many doctors that have used it would tell you, and I agree 100%, take that with a grain of salt if you wish, but after hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of hours of research and lots and lots of use, hands-on experience with Lugos iodine alone, not even including povidone and other things, it is probably one of the safest, if not the safest, antibiotic known to humankind. And they knew that forever. The problem is, for the dose of an antibiotic, 1 or 2 drops of this, which is like I said, 2%, which would be 2.5 milligrams a drop. 1 or 2 drops of this is probably 1/10 of 1 cent. So you're talking dirt cheap, and it's not something, again, this isn't something that's going to cause you yeast infections when we're talking about women and men. But that's not something that's going to cause that like antibiotics are known to do. As you know, hopefully, by now, antibiotics predominantly are fungal-derived products. So is there any wonder that people get recurring yeast infections, or recurring ear infections, or recurring eye infections when you keep putting in a fungal mycotoxin in there to kill a bacteria? Well, what are you going to do about the fungal mycotoxin? Something's got to be done. So let's switch back to the ovarian cysts, because that's what I wanted to focus on today. And just to give you a short, what would I do? There could be a whole list of things, but I'm going to focus on the Lugos myself. I'm going to focus on the Lugos because we've worked with probably at least 20 people in the Philippines alone with ovarian cysts, and it seems far more prevalent in the Philippines, just because, I'm going to say, as odd as you might think. Whereas in Japan, in other areas where there's a large amount of seaweed intake, which is very rich in iodine, of course. Here we have salt and stuff, even though it's just minute amounts. Somewhere on the order of 96% of Americans and people around the world are iodine deficient. That's from Brownstein, Fleccas, and Guy Abraham. And we still know that iodine is one of the leading causes of mental retardation around the world, and that's from the WHO. however much you want to trust them, but there's no reason. That's a pretty reliable source in that respect. So as far as the ovarian cysts, I've had a couple family members that we've worked with that, and other people in the Philippines that has been very effective. No names, but there's nothing to be ashamed of either. I mean, this is something that's very common. And let me put a couple things together. Mostly when people think about iodine, you think about thyroid. The thyroid obviously is the number one gland that the body has as far as to hold the iodine, which is so critical to have, especially when you're ill, whatever that pathogen might be, because when you have a sufficient thyroid, which very few people do, when you have sufficient iodine in the thyroid, when that blood, every drop of blood runs through that thyroid every 17-18 minutes, that's going through a gauntlet of pathogen killing beautiful iodine that every cell in your body needs. So here's one of the things that I bet you won't find probably an MD out there that knows, and this is a fact, scientific medical fact, that what's the other gland in the body that actually produces thyroid hormone? Well, and of course you got to have iodine to produce that thyroid hormone, and you need the selenium methionine to T3 or T4 to T3. But what is the other gland? It's the ovaries. Dr. Fleckus has been teaching this for many years, and I've been educating other people on this on that subject in particular for probably at least 10 years in my old Facebook and other media outlets that I've used to write notes on. So the point there is to make that connection between iodine lack. Let me point out here, and I make no money. I'm not plugging these guys, but they're one of the few labs that I know of, and I've done the test, which was great. It was about $75, but it's called, oh my gosh, I just had a brain fart. But anyway, it is Hakula, Hakala Labs, and they do a wonderful, very easy test that you can do for $75, and it's well worth it. So anyway, what I had suggested, and again, talk to your doctor. Always talk to your doctor and try to find one who's knowledgeable and at least open. If nothing else, they're willing to read some of the PubMed, which is loaded with iodine facts and as well as iodine facts on ovarian and reproductive health in general. What I would do, and what I have done and suggested people strongly consider, is get that Lugos like I suggested. Again, this is one of the ones, and at 2%, I suggest start using 5 drops a day. Now that's about 12.5 milligrams. That's about 100 times the American RDA, but it's also approximately the same amount that the Japanese people get in their diet every day. So, and they're pretty intelligent. So I might consider, who would you trust more, the Japanese population and their medical system, or our IDA or RDA that is probably mostly derived from pharmaceuticals and others that are that thrive on the drugs that are sold here. Again, we got 5% of the population. 5% of the population in the world, and we consume 65% of the prescription drugs in the world. Pretty freaking pathetic. But boy, is that a great money game. Keeps the stock market going too, doesn't it? So anyway, I would suggest 5 drops a day. And one of the most recent, she had her ultrasound done. She, about 6 months ago, she had several cysts, ovarian cysts. She was quite concerned. We had her use one of the bottles that we had. She took, I believe, 5 drops a day. I would take much more than that in short order. I would start with 5 drops a day and take up to 20, which would be 50 milligrams. And again, that's what the best of the best suggest day in and day out. Even if you got a cold or something like that, you take 50 milligrams. They used to use 1,000 times more than that 100 years ago. So it's something that you can strongly consider in your research and find that it's incredibly safe. 6 months later, she had her test done and there was no signs of ovarian cysts, and she's of course ready to have another child. So it's one of those things that I've seen at least work at least 20 times. in just the Philippines alone, I think. I mean, but here in the United States, again, I lose track because I've helped so many people, and it wasn't, you know, just online and stuff like that, and had feedback, which was wonderful. Again, it's something that you should always do your own research. But I've given you names of 3 of the best iodine doctors that have ever existed, and still in practice today, at least for Jorge Fleckis and Dr. Abraham. There's Drs. Derry and others that are great too, but they've got Dr. Braunstein has got an older book with a lot of new additions called Iodine, Why You Need It and Why You Can't Live Without It. It's a phenomenal book. I suggest everybody get one, especially if you have thyroid issues, prostate issues, or anything reproductive, IQ, you know, mental health, stuff like that. A bottle of iodine is something that every household should have and everybody should be supplementing with. That's just my view. Again, especially with the thyroid, I would always use, and do use myself, the iodine per day, as I do for my children and grandson, and along with the selenium methionine, which helps dramatically with other things, but to top it off, helps the T4, T3 conversion for the thyroid hormone. So I'm going to end with that because I'm focusing on the Lugos and ovarian cysts. I hope that's helpful. I'm going to try to continue doing these things and off the cuff. I'm not going to, you know, and that's what it is, because I didn't write anything down. I just got off the road after driving half an hour, and it came to my mind, and I thought, well, if we can help a few more people, pass this on. But I can tell you that when it comes to ovarian nodules, ovarian cysts, ovarian cancers, prostate cancers, cancers in general, breast cancer, you name it, you will always find that there's either a toxicity or a major deficiency, or a combination of both, of course, that cause the issue. We weren't meant to have our you know, thymus and having our parts of our thyroid and having our ovaries and having our prostate. They weren't meant to be yanked out every time there's a problem. They're meant to be taken care of, nutrified, getting rid of the toxins, and get the nutrition that they need that makes them thrive and stay healthy for a good 80, 90 years if we're that blessed. So I'm going to say that's it, and salamat, and hope to see you soon. See ya.